Welcome to Empowering Seniors Daily Dose. I'm Katherine Ambrose, and today I'm here with author and realtor Ingrid Sullivan from the Dallas, Texas area. Welcome, Ingrid. Thanks for being on.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So, as you know, we know each other from the Senior Real Estate Institute and earning our Certified Senior Housing Professional. And I know that you are a very experienced downsizing coach, and you've done a lot of transitional moves with seniors, helped guide them or their families through the process. And you wrote an awesome book. I have bought like every book I can find on downsizing. And I find that your book is unique. I love the layout of it. I think it's really easy to navigate through, and I like how you've got the little sidebar tips everywhere. So you did a phenomenal job on that, you and your husband, John.
Well, thank you so much. We can't take all the credit. Our executive assistant comes from a family of printers. So she knew exactly what we needed to get it set up right. We helped her with the content, but she made it look beautiful.
She really did.
We're blessed to have her.
She did a great job. It takes a village, I'm sure, to put a book like this together. Yeah. So you and your husband, John, are real estate partners, just like my husband and I are. Tell us a little bit about how the two of you work together and a little bit of your background.
Okay. All right. Our background is we actually started, we had a consulting business. We've always worked together in one way or another, technology-wise. He sold the computers. I taught people how to use them. But over a few years, my son's godmother, my best friend, is a real estate agent. I'm from Colorado. John's from Texas. And she made a call to us one afternoon and said, we're getting ready to switch our whole system over to a computer program, and we really need you to come and help us do this. And that's kind of where it all blossomed. So we started a consulting business, Techno Smart Future. And we have done that for many, many years in Colorado and in Texas, teaching our clients, realtors, how to use their computers, how to use the software, how to use the sales programs, how to be a realtor, that kind of thing. And John and I got our licenses in 2005. And as you know, it's kind of addicting being a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. It's so fun serving people and making things happen that you just look for another opportunity each time. And we've really enjoyed it. As far as my relationship with seniors, we're realtors like everybody else is. We have first-time home buyers, move-up sellers. But it really started with our parents. My mother-in-law was at a point where she was living in her home here in Arlington, Texas, alone, and not really doing well. As time went on, she had macular degeneration. She couldn't drive. Some of her blood pressure medicine was causing her to have fainting spells. And it was really time for her to go into something more reasonable. And because we're gone during the day, every day, it didn't make sense for us to bring her to another place where she wouldn't be with somebody. So we started the search for senior communities, saw many of them. And most often the end of the day would come with, I'm not ready for that. I don't want to do that yet. But over time, we found the right place. We moved to a Brookdale community, and the marketer there found out that John and I were realtors and approached me one day and said, a lot of our residents that live here still have properties. Would you be willing to come in and do what we like to call a real estate minute every 6 months? And just kind of let them know what's going on in the market, because they want to know for investment purposes. Mm-hmm. So the first one that I did, there were probably 10 people present. It was about a 20-minute presentation. And then I came back 6 months later and the room had doubled. And I had several people come up to me afterwards whispering, I still have my house.
Yeah.
I don't want to bother my children with it. They're busy. I can't do it myself. My back won't allow me to pack things anymore. Mm-hmm. Can you help me? And we out of the passion of what we went through with my mother-in-law and all the things that we did, we knew that we needed to come up with something that would be a solution
Hmm.
for our clients.
And maybe coming
So
from,
we built senior downsizing experts.
awesome. Well, and maybe coming from the technology world, you were used to a process and step by step, and
Right.
having been an instructor. And so you probably put this together in a very logical way and figured out the best way to do it. So yeah, share with us some of your ahas through that process and helping people downsize.
It's not about how fast can you do it. That's probably the most important thing, is to be a partner and a ally with our clients. Sometimes the family wants to do it quick, quick, quick. Let's get it done. Hurry up. Going to move you in. You don't need all these things. And our senior client hasn't really had a lot of time to process it and have input.
Mm-hmm.
So our consultation sometimes, Katherine, can be one consultation, but the time frame could be a year or maybe longer. As we work through it together, okay, let's do this. And when you get done with that, we'll do the next thing. And I will tell you that that's probably one of the most rewarding things, because it's about building the relationship
Mm-hmm.
and making them feel like there's someone on their side that's going to walk them through that process. And of
Absolutely.
course, our goal in the end is for that person to say, or that family to say, I had no idea this could be so easy. Thank you.
Well, that's terrific. And it's very empowering to handle it that way. That's exactly how we work here in Kansas. And we want seniors to feel accomplished, that they have had time to process and make their own decisions, and that they feel great because they accomplished the move on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we help people in all different stages of real estate, and we handle estates and, you know, just the whole gamut. But when we're working with a senior has the client, that's our goal, is to make them feel comfortable through the whole process and just be a partner to them. So do you have any stories to share, just some, you know, that might shed a little insight on what the downsizing process is like, or some of the complications that people run into?
A couple things that come to mind for me. One of the things that you said earlier, it takes a village. And that is really what we learned early on. It's something that we, as much as we want to do everything, we can't do alone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to seek out partners that will have the same passion as you do for that clientele. Contractors that are not going to be sitting out in the van in a, you know, t-shirt and dirty coming in to meet our client. So we really took the approach of, who can we find that has had experience with their parents similar to what we did, and let's build a group around that. And that's really made a big difference. A lot of the people that we work with, our estate liquidator, our handyman contractor, our packer, we share the same calendars. So we kind of know who's starting now and what's coming next. And it's been rewarding for us to be able to have that communication together, as well as for our client. That's one of the things. Is I have a client right now. I met with her a week ago Wednesday. She is wanting to make a move, wasn't really sure. She came to me as a referral from her daughter, who I had helped before. She wasn't really sure what to do and what the process was going to be. So we sat down, had a consultation, and within a day, we had the estate liquidator set up to come visit her, and was able to take those things out of the house that she really didn't want to deal with anyway. That's already done. We met with the contractor a couple of days ago and took him out through a walkthrough through the house with our checklist on the things that we want to do, and let him know right from the get-go that we had a budget. So he wasn't going to just be a la carte. And she just said, I feel so comfortable with you taking control of this. I'm just going to sit on the side and let you handle it. And today, the proposal that came back from the contractor that we work with, Handyman, was perfect. It was half of what we were thinking we'd have to pay. And that's what we like to do. If I could be the person that came up with the you're in good hands with Allstate,
Yeah.
that's what I want. We want to take you from here to here and let you off. And that's important. Making sure that everybody in the family, children included, whether they're local or somewhere else, that they all feel like they're a part of it to the extent that they want to be, not to alienate anybody.
Right.
And probably the other big thing is if a spouse has passed, right away find out if all the paperwork has been taken care of, because you don't want to get wheels in motion and then all of a sudden find out that they never probated, or they've got her kids and his kids. So asking the right questions is super, super important from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of things that can come up, and so going through that question and answer consult and then you helping them through the process, because people don't realize some of the things that they need to do, and also conversely some of the things that they don't need to do.
Exactly.
Because sometimes we'll have a daughter, they'll say, well, Mom, where is your deed? And they think that they have to have a deed or something.
Right.
And so can you tell us a little bit about, and we're in 2 different states, and there's going to be people watching in all different states. Tell us a little bit about what people might be thinking about having on hand versus the things that they're worried about that they don't need to have on hand.
Well, in a lot of cases, they ask us when we do before we even go, we talk about the appointment and some of those things that we need to have, like the survey. That's going to be important. Any death certificate, if you need to have it, that's always handy. My operations manager, if they have an email and they're on email, we'll put together a list for them so that they can kind of pre-prepare for us. If they don't have a current will, or maybe, they did one 15 years ago, but it hasn't been updated, we do have an elder law attorney that will give them an hour and a half of his time for free. Wow. To just look over the paperwork to make sure that they have everything that they're going to need. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how we do that, Katherine. We're thinking about those things. And just like you said, oh my gosh, all the house sale papers. Really all I care about is any updates, upgrades, or repairs that you've done in the last couple of years. If you can lay your hand on those receipts, that's great. Or tell me who did it, I'll make the call and get the receipts. Mm-hmm. And if you have a survey on your property, it won't always be accepted, but there's a good chance it will. Let us fight for that for you if you have one.
So in Texas, do you need to have a survey for real estate closings?
Yes, unless it's a cash deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in Kansas, we don't need one. Now, years ago, buyers were oftentimes required to have one for their lender, but that has gone away. And so it's really nice if a seller does have a survey, because they can give that to the buyer, and because buyers aren't typically going to get one.
Right. Well, and in our case, and of course, it's the how old it is going to make a difference. If it was a house that was built in 1940, there's a chance that the title company doesn't want to insure it because, if it's an old survey. On the other hand, if they've never changed anything on the property, change things like put a concrete pad back there to stick a shed on, mm-hmm. that would damage the survey. That would make it invalid. Or put a pool in there in the backyard. When there wasn't one when they bought the house, that's another thing that would cancel out the survey.
Yeah.
But if there was extended the patio out a little bit, but not too much, a lot of times the title company that we work with, who is amazing, they really know our clients. They'll allow them to pencil in where they put that in, and then we send it to underwriting, and usually gets approved.
Okay, very cool. So we don't have to worry about that here, but you know, I think the point is that I'm thinking is that having a very experienced realtor is very important, because someone that has been through many real estate transactions before is going to be better equipped to help a family or a homeowner through through a real estate sale. And especially, I think, when you are handling maybe the last real estate sale, you know,
Yeah.
that someone might be doing when they're exiting the real estate market,
Yeah.
it's a big transition. And so you want it to
Yeah.
go smoothly, and the less stress, the better. So really someone experienced that has experience specifically working with seniors as well. And
I would make one of the things that I wanted to make a comment about when it comes to partners. We have our escrow officer has been with us almost 10 years.
Mhm.
She knows our clientele really well. She knows that neither John or I are a proponent of sitting down at a closing, sign. Okay, give me your keys. We're done. Yay. Because it's not that kind of a deal for a lot of people. She goes through things. She takes her time and explains it to him. I have had her in just about every retirement community here in the city. She goes with me. We set up a conference room, so she's there. She's my partner. They see that. It really makes a big difference.
That is a great idea, Ingrid, because they're specialists at what they do, and there's a lot of questions that they can answer. Yeah,
Right.
that's a terrific idea. We have a couple of escrow people that we work with closely, but I think that's a really good idea to visit with them about helping us in the education. We've talked about doing workshops where we might cover trust, you know, making sure that your house is in the trust and that kind of thing. So very
We've even
interesting.
included our escrow officer in our seminars.
Mm-hmm.
She'll have her part in the PowerPoint where she can stand up and talk about, this is what my role is. This is what you need to bring to me when we close. These are the things I'll be looking for. And it again, it really builds that whole team approach.
Yeah, that's terrific. So tell us, what kind of, how does a realtor become equipped to work on these senior transitional moves and do a good job for people?
It's a really good question. I used to think that it was about the age, but I don't anymore, because there's a number of realtors, as you and I know, that are in their that are a lot younger,
Mm-hmm.
in their early 30s, that do a fantastic job. As far as the realtor's concerned, the number one thing is mindset. Number one thing. And I would say this, you've got to go into it. It's not about the money.
Right.
It's about the service.
Mm-hmm.
It's every bit about that. And be thinking that way and treat people that way. So it has to be somebody that is compassionate. It could be a big producer, but if your idea is to do it just like this, you're not that person.
Now, I've had big producers call me from all over the country wanting to know, well, how do I get into the senior business? Because, you know, and how many millions of dollars can I add to my bottom line a year? And I'm like, you know, that's the wrong question. If that's what you're thinking, I can already tell you this isn't going to be what you want to do, because it is about the empathy. And I can understand why you thought originally it was about age, because with age, you have some life experience and wisdom, and hopefully naturally empathy for people that are your age or your parents' age. But yes, we know some 30-year-olds in this country, a couple of them that I'm thinking of, that do an excellent job. It all comes down to heart. And realtors that are not the right match for this segment of the population, they're not going to specialize in it. They may say that they have a certain designation and that makes them qualified to work with seniors, but it's not going to be their 100% full-on specialty like it is for you and I. because it really takes a lot of dedication. I spend a lot of my time on just educating on all different types of senior topics far outside of real estate. But that's because, where you live is one of the very basics, one of the basic needs. And we just feel like we need to be well versed on everything that a homeowner is going through if they're thinking about making a downsizing move, and everything that the family might be going through.
Exactly.
And to have some empathy and understanding when it comes to, like, I've been talking about hospice lately, even end of life topics, just so that we can have a real understanding of what the family might have recently gone through, or what they might be concerned about.
Yes,
So
I agree. We do, we have a seminar series that we do. It's called the Smart Senior Series. And we build it around life topics like you're talking about. What we find is that people that come to our series, they may come to the first one, planning for your future, which we're really talking about your money and your legal. We just we build it that way. Most often everybody signs up and comes to every one that we have, because it's even when we're having guest panelists come and speak, like we had one yesterday, the rule of thumb is we're there to educate and empower, not to try to sell something to anybody. And I think people feel comfortable with that because they know that we're not going to be pushing them to do something that they really don't want to do.
Exactly. That's the last thing that we would want someone to believe. And, and sometimes it's about just helping them make a decision, perhaps to stay in the home that they're in, and making some accommodations at home so they can be more comfortable.
That's
or
right.
Doing something differently with their finances so that they can stay in their home longer.
Yes.
And helping them bridge the gaps, if they need some services, and helping them figure out how to acquire that and get connected to the right people. Knowing that someday when the time is right, that they might make a move, or they run into somebody that might make a move, that they'll remember us.
Right. It's all about trust. They need to be able to trust you and know that you are concerned about their best interests, not about how quickly can you do something that'll be a benefit to you right away.
Mm-hmm. So Ingrid, what's your philosophy on getting a home up to date or up to code that someone maybe has lived in for, let's say, even decades? What are your thoughts on property condition?
Well, it kind of depends on what their goal is. I mean, it really does depend on what their goal is. We've had people come to us and say, I've lived in this home for a long time. It's been paid for a long time. I don't want to do anything here. I'd love to have a little bit of money out of it if you can make that happen, but I want to get it gone. And in that case, if it's really needing updating and repairs, then we offer to have them consult with our investor team. And we have a group of investors that work with us. If they're like the woman that I just spoke about here a moment ago, there were some baseboards that needed to be done. There were some smoke detectors that needed to be upgraded, and some tile work, that kind of thing. But it wasn't a lot. I always approach it this way. When you were thinking about selling your home, did you set aside a budget for some updates or repairs? And explain the process to them, that their buyer's going to have an inspection. They're going to be looking for certain things. They're not necessarily asking for new flooring or a different color on the walls, but important things. How do they feel about that? And then we just kind of we go from there, so that they feel better about it. If they're saying, I'm not opposed to putting granite in here and I want to do all hardwood floors, which I will tell you is rare, because I want to get a certain number out of there, we make sure that the comps line up so that they can see that you may put this in but not get the money back. But again, just kind of laying it all out so that we, as a team, we can decide the best
Yeah, that's where that
Right.
experience comes in,
Yeah.
and consultation and
Yes.
helping identify what their goal is, what's most important to them, and helping them make good decisions along the way.
Yeah.
Because many homes are sold as is,
Mhm.
at least today. I know your market is strong.
Mhm.
Our market is strong. And so it might depend on when you're watching this video, but you want to have an experienced realtor to guide you through making good decisions so you're not um, wasting your money on
Yeah.
things. We really want you to be able to take your money with you.
Right.
And we tell people, if we can show you where to spend a nickel to earn a dollar, then we can help you figure out how to do that and get connected to the right people and help coordinate things. And that can be done. Right now in our market, you can sell as is on probably most situations and net out just as well as if you took the time and spent the money to do upgrades.
Well, I like to use this example. Oftentimes it'll come up that, oh, I know my carpet's old. Of course, it's going like this. I know my carpet's old and I really need to do something. Well, let's get new carpet. And what we try to do, we have relationships with flooring companies
Mhm.
that offer senior discounts. Um, but what we rather would do is have that person come out and give us an estimate on what would it be if we put tile, what would it be if we put wood, what if we put new carpet. We don't do that, but we let the buyer know that we've gotten estimates ahead of time.
Mhm.
And the story that I like to share with my client is, even though it would look good if we put new carpet down, you know what's going to happen is you're going to come back into the neighborhood a week or so afterwards to visit your neighbors. And lo and behold, it's going to be on the curb for the trash to pick up because they didn't want carpet. They wanted something else.
That's
So
true.
let's work with them and maybe what we decide to do based on our research on what it would cost to replace these things.
Mhm.
Maybe we consider giving them a concession for that, depending upon the offer, of course.
Yeah. Well, and with some homes, you could replace the carpet, and we have very, very affordable options for that to just make it look clean, fresh, new.
Right.
But then if you have wallpaper in several different rooms, you've got cabinets that might need updating and countertops, and the list could go on and on. And it's like, well, where do you stop? And so my husband and I make a judgment call, as I'm sure you do, and just kind of have conversations, real conversations, so that they can decide how they want to present it. And sometimes we find brand new, beautiful hardwood floors under the carpet. And so it's just a
Yeah.
matter of pulling the carpet up and just
Yeah.
sweeping it, and we're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And then we were just in a house the other day that was so perfect. We said, we normally talk a lot about as is, but your home is so perfect that if you were to address the old ceiling stain up by the fireplace in the living room and the old plumbing stain in the basement bedroom, hey, it'd be worth it because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
totally market ready. So,
Yeah.
and so it just depends on the individual people for sure.
Yeah.
What do you find between, say, adult children and their parents? What are some of the issues that might come up for people, some of the challenges?
Well, I would say one of the challenges that we see, especially when it comes to moving, is what they're going to take and what they're going to leave behind. I have a past client that was a painter. And I mean, she had paintings all over the house, including behind every door because there wasn't enough place to hang them. And she had her son didn't really want to be bothered with it. Let's just get you moved. She was moving into a 1-bedroom apartment. And we were going to stay there. And he pretty much just picked out the things and said, you're taking this, 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 and this. You don't need anything else. And then put all of her paintings in black trash bags and put them on the curb because he didn't think they were important and nobody wanted to look at those. And, so sometimes it's like that.
That's really sad.
That's an extreme. Yeah, that's an extreme example, but it's the time consumption of, well, how long is it going to take to get this done?
Mhm.
Or how much are we going to get out of this? Let's just get rid of it really quick. Like when maybe we don't like to let things sit on the market for a long time, but maybe if we gave it just a little bit extra, especially with what's going on right now, we might be able to get a little more on it. That is a challenge. It's how quickly. Let's get it done. We don't want to mess with this. I don't have time for this. Has been our experience.
Mhm.
We have a few people that have bought our book that have lived in another state
Mhm.
and went through some of the things that we have in there and used that to guide their parent. And that was just great. It worked well.
Yeah, that's good. And they can buy this book on Amazon. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I will include a link so that people can go in and purchase it. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, I'll put a link there with this video so people can find it. But otherwise, you're going to look for the Ultimate Guide to Downsizing on Amazon. That would be a good way to find it. Can they get it through your website in Dallas?
Yes, they can. They can do that. And we have it in both paperback, as you were showing, and Kindle version.
Oh, okay. Well, very good. And some of the adult kids especially might like that.
Yes.
That makes me so sad about that art. And, you know, we have to kind of figure out where we can interject and support.
Yeah.
We'd be trying to suggest that the art go into consignment for an estate sale because,
or even to a senior center.
Yeah. Yeah. For definitely a lot of senior centers have beautiful art that's been donated from people moving in. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it makes me sad. I had a woman call a few months ago that she had been referred to us and she just wanted a little information. And then she kind of talked herself out of it on the phone. She said, well, I'm just going to tell mom that I'm going to decide what's going to go in her apartment. And I'm just going to take care of it. And she's probably just not going to see a lot of these things again. And it's really sad. That's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do with our program being Empowered Senior Seminar Series or the Empowering Seniors TV show. We're all about empowerment and letting seniors make up their own decisions and be in charge of their own life. And we'd like to give advice on what they can do with some of their leftover property so that they can get something out of it. And so that the things that they love that they're not taking or the family's not taking, that it can go out there into the universe to other people that might love it too.
Two things I wanted to add to that. For those individuals that are watching this that are real estate agents, you know, when someone is buying your home, you dream about another family raising their children there. The holidays, maybe they'll celebrate them like you do. That letter that you send with your offer on that property, if it has a picture of that family and the children, I cannot tell you what it does for that person. They light up.
I agree.
They want to see that. The idea of somebody coming in and flipping it is scary to them. They're going to tear apart everything I've ever had. But having that is really important. And the other thing I wanted to mention is our packer she is amazing. She has 5 women packers, which is what attracted me to her. But after I go in and do the consultation and kind of decide what we're going to do and what our time frame is, I will have her go in and do a walkthrough with our client because she's familiar with the floor plans. Mm-hmm. So she can help them, whether they're buying a new little house or whether they're moving to an apartment. She can help them figure out what's going to fit and what's not going to fit. And I really try to encourage the family, let her do that.
Yeah.
It's easier for her to say they can't take the 9-foot couch, but she could get a new a love seat with a couple of chairs. It's easier for her to do that than for them to have the contention. And here's the other thing. All that china, the million sets of china that we see that everybody loves and Pinterest, etc. What Dana has done is she'll do a shadow box that will have the dinner plate, the salad plate, the saucer, and the cup. And it's all in a nice little frame.
Oh, that's,
for our client. And so now they have a picture of, well, that's what my grandmother's china looked like. We use that during a certain time.
oh, that's really cool too, because that could go uh, into your apartment, and then maybe another shadow box could be created for each daughter or granddaughter or whatever
Yeah.
you want to do. That's a really great idea. I'd love to see a photo of that. I
Yeah.
think that is fantastic.
And a picture of the home they lived in framed, so that they have
Awesome.
that too. That way it's, the memories there. And not only do they feel that it's important, but you felt it was really important to share that with them and that you saw those things too.
Hmm. And that's something that a good packer or senior move manager or
Mhm.
downsizing coach might do with a client, is help them reminisce and process
Right.
as decisions are being made.
Right.
And it's a very cathartic um, thing to go through. And
Mhm.
and when you have a third party professional helping you through that process that's done it time and time again, it's different than a relative. Now, sometimes we work side by side with the relatives and we all do this together. But sometimes if you're just doing it with your son, as you mentioned that story, or your daughter, there's a lot of emotion tied to things,
Yeah.
and just family frustrations can come up, and guilt. So we always say about uh, our senior move specialist that, so they're like having an extra daughter involved in helping you go through this process, only they're
Right.
never going to give you a guilt trip on anything. And
That's exactly right.
yeah.
That could be more logical. So they, for the parent, excuse me, the child, they're off the hook without mom saying, "Oh my gosh, I've saved that for you for years. Are you kidding me? You don't want it."
Hmm.
On the other hand, that person that has no attachment to anything can say, "You know what? These little things would be so cute. I'll bet you that there's going to be another family that's going to love it like your son did when he was young," and make it easier to release it.
Yes. And also to say, you love that so much, let's incorporate that into your apartment. We had
Yes.
a gentleman that just loved his organ, and I can't remember what it was called, but a really nice organ. And he wanted us to know the value and to make sure that we were going to get enough money out of it during the estate sale. And the more he talked about it, it was just so clear how much he loved that organ. And so when we were touring the home, I had him play it for us, and he just lit up. And so we told him, look, it's just silly to get rid of it. Let's put it in your beautiful apartment. So you got a beautiful apartment with sliding glass doors that walk out onto a patio overlooking the golf course. His
Ooh.
apartment is just down the hall from an awesome dining. And I said, you can bring your friends after dinner to your apartment. You can play the organ and you can enjoy your patio. And so that's what we did. And it was very easy to accommodate that in his floor plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I just did something very similar, except for that it was the baby grand was replaced in the outside the dining room with the old one that they had, and he could sit there and play and serenade them, which he is in love with doing, and he's 90 years old and he loves it, and they love him.
That's awesome. So, and that's where the heart comes in, where we were talking about at the beginning that this cannot be about real estate transactions. This cannot be about um, how many millions of dollars worth of transactions are you going to do in a year, how a realtor might look at it. That this is about providing a true heart-centered service for people to help them make good decisions and to be as happy as possible in their new home, or help the family has settled and at peace with everything. So they're not just loading up their house and loading up storage unit with things, or selling things too cheap at a garage sale thinking, oh, we're going to save money, so we're going to do a garage sale. We're really helping them understand what the best practices are, what the best options are, so that they can make decisions that might be surprising that they didn't know would work as well for them. And it just helps to work with somebody that's been through this so many times. and has a lot of extra training and experience in exactly these type of transactions.
Right.
So what type of education is out there for real estate agents? If you were looking for a realtor in another city to help a client that you're referring, if someone needed help for their mother in a suburb of Chicago, what kind of realtor would you be searching for to recommend to them?
Well, one of the places that I would go, which would probably be for a lot of people the most common, I have the SRES Senior Real Estate Services designation, as do you. I would look on the SRES site, or I will, depending upon if it's a realtor within my company or not, I would look to see what their designations are and to kind of learn a little bit about them before I refer them. There is another group, really great group I would consider it to be more of an advanced study, if you will, of the senior business, and it's called being a certified senior housing professional. And there is a group of agents across the country, a couple hundred, and they're very focused on the senior market and what's going on there, more than just how do you get their house sold.
Right.
But I would love to find somebody that's involved with that, because it's been very beneficial to me. And there's a website that you can go to look at the map and to see where the people are located.
Yeah. So just know that if you have a trusted realtor that's really at the top of the industry, they can help you find a realtor in a city that you might need one in.
Yes.
And the
yes.
way we look for a realtor is going to be very different than how the average consumer looks. We're not going to just happen upon one. We are going to research. We want to see designations. We want to see some evidence of a good deal of experience. And then I'm going to call their broker, and I'm going to interview their broker. I'm going to ask their broker who in their office they would recommend and why. And I don't even trust that completely, because I might be looking for something different than what the broker is trying to recommend to me, but I know what questions I want to ask. And then I will call the realtor and interview them. And I will usually interview 2 to 3 realtors at a minimum, and sometimes give the one that I think is best, or I might give 2 or 3 options and tell them what my opinion is so far. And the benefit of that to clients is that even though we are just making a referral, there's a professional relationship there, and our brokers are involved, our brokerage firms are involved, and there's a lot of accountability there. So there's a lot that we can do to step in and help if needed, if there's any issue. But also I think that they are going to know that they are being held accountable. I guess that's the best thing. That we're going to be watching and see how well they take care of people, and that we have a standard. They know what that standard is, and that we expect that they're going to get that type of service or better. And it makes a big difference. And
well, we have a special client. You know, that's why they call it a niche. We have a special client, and it is an honor when we have an opportunity to help somebody like that, because it's a bigger deal than moving to the next house that I have.
Yeah.
There's a lot more involved in it. So we want to make sure that the people that we're sending that referral to feel that same compassion.
Right. And we want the adult children to know that their parents or their mother, their dad is in really good hands, and that there are people involved that really do care. And it might sound cliche, but that our goal is to help take care of their mother the way we would want someone to take care of our mother.
Exactly.
So how long did it take you to write this book, Ingrid?
We thought we could put it together in a couple of months. It took us a year and a half to put it together.
Well,
we're actually working on a new one now, but it took us a year and a half.
Can you share what your new one is going to be about? Is it kind of the next step, or?
Well, since we have written this book, there's a lot more to senior housing. So we want to really elaborate on that, on the different styles of senior housing that are available out there,
Mhm.
and an extension to some of the senior care that's also available for those people that choose to age in place.
And that is another overwhelming uh, industry. So
Yes.
we know that when someone is downsizing, that they are usually, okay, they're always completely overwhelmed. And our goal is to help take them from being overwhelmed to overjoyed. It's a very specialized service. And
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, is there a lot to the senior living industry, all the different types of things that there are, and the things to know about. I'm always talking about, did you know if your parents are in the hospital and they can't come straight home, that they need to go to a rehab or skilled nursing unit for a little while, that you have a choice? You don't want to go where the hospital is trying to send you, because usually there's some type of financial relationship there and you're not going to get the standard of care that you would want. And so you have to be, you have to do your due diligence and make sure you're getting sent
Yeah.
right direction. And better yet, kind of pre-book, kind of know what rehab place you would use if you ever needed that kind of service. So you have it
Right.
figured out. So you can tell the hospital, no, I'm going to this place.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
mhm,
Well, the other thing too with this pandemic that we have all been dealing with, I think what I'm seeing, we have two clients that were deposits down, listing contracts are in place, estate sales were scheduled, and it just put a halt on everything. As a matter of fact, one woman called and said, Ingrid, I would rather have eaten a can of worms than to tell you we're not going to do anything. And my husband and I had just spoken about that and said they just need to sit tight. And I said, no, you know what? We're with you on that. That I think you need to sit tight right now. Let's just wait and see what happens. And I think what's happening is for lots of people right now that were at that next place, not that they're not, but I think they're now looking at what are all my options.
mhm,
And it's important for a senior advisor to be very engaged and knowledgeable about, well, what are the other options
mhm,
that are available that maybe they do need to sit tight for a little bit longer than they thought they would. We always talk about they don't want to go to senior living when there's a crisis.
right.
So our role is to look to see how we can help with things that will keep it from being a crisis until they feel better, and we're better to do that.
You know what that made me think of, Ingrid, is those of us that are already working deep in this industry, the senior services industry, is that having gone through this and what we learn over the next few months, we're gaining more experience about the different types of communities that are out there and the experiences that people have had at the different places. For example, an independent living center near me, the residents could come and go because it's independent.
Mhm.
Um, and then some that were in assisted living, they were doing the lockdown, and people that spent money to be on the exterior with a patio or balcony maybe had a better experience than the people that didn't opt to upgrade. And
Yeah.
so we've just learned some things. And for those that want to stay in their homes longer, we have lots of suggestions on how they can accomplish that. And, timeliness is really important. Sometimes people will wait too long to make a move and then no longer qualify for the place they wanted to go.
Right.
And so there's just a lot of pre-education to do in preparation for the just in case I should move, that you just have a plan. Because
Well, and also to be partnering with those communities that are re-looking at how they've done things in the past and what can they do to improve those things,
mhm,
as well as make them know that we want to know that. Let
yeah,
us be good partners with you to
mhm,
share that news or to share that feedback to you so that you can improve.
yeah, I think that's excellent, because I think there are changes that need to be made. The virus is scary,
Mhm.
and but some of these things have not been great, like not being able to be with your loved one when they're
Yeah.
near death, or going through anything in a hospital. Personally, I understand the need to keep people safe in the hospital, but I also feel like it is criminal to keep family away. I think that people need to have an advocate. You need to
Yeah.
be an advocate for your family
Yeah.
when they're in the hospital. And
Right.
so locking the family out, that is not on my list of things I'm happy about right now.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. We have just recently, my mother-in-law passed. Um, she was 98 years old. She lived in an assisted living. It was not COVID. She was just ready. And we had the benefit of being able to go in and see her two at a time, with our masks on, of course. But we had an opportunity to say our goodbyes because it was over a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But there's people here in my office, a couple of people that lost a loved one, that they never got a chance to do that. And it is criminal, it is cruel, and I don't think anybody would have chosen that for anyone. But because this is so new, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, just caught the world off guard.
Yeah.
We had a loved one just pass last week, and we were very fortunate that we're at the tail end of this lockdown. And my husband, sister-in-law, and mother-in-law got to be with my father-in-law the last day, his last full day of life. And then the next day, only my mother-in-law was going to be allowed to come in. And she wasn't permitted to come in until 3 p.m. Well, he passed at noon. They called the family and said, we're losing him, get here quick. And then they called right back and said that he's gone. And so no one was with him. And I didn't get to go. None of the grandchildren got to go have any last conversations with him. And I just think it's just terribly sad. But I've certainly heard a lot worse in terms of stories.
Yeah.
And so, that's where that heart thing comes in too, is that realtors that are certified senior housing professionals, or they have earned the senior real estate specialist, but not just as continuing education, they've really gone deep and committed themselves fully into that specialty. We're interested in advocating for seniors and being part of this discussion. I feel like I live in the senior industry world, and I do, and it's different than living in just the real estate world. So,
Right.
and because of all the real estate experience that you and I have, that allows us to operate in a totally different realm, because the real estate part of it, we've got that, we know what we're doing. And this is a whole entirely different career, basically.
Well, and you just brought something up. I network, and I have for many years, with senior healthcare providers. And initially, the consensus was, why are you here? What do you have to do with any of this?
Mm-hmm.
Because most of them were home health care. That's their position. Why would you want to sell my, that's my.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've said on many occasions, I've learned so much from you. I learned when it comes time to have someone come in and be with a parent, my own parent, who would I call? I have a mother that my mother was in New Mexico. I called Comfort Keepers to go and check on her twice a week. And I learned that through them.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so much from you. And the thing that's important to remember is that we need to operate together as partners, share information and knowledge together, because sooner or later, you're going to need somebody. They're going to need somebody. And would you rather not refer somebody that's familiar with your industry versus someone that has no clue?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's important. And sometimes that message is hard to get across.
And so I'm going to backtrack you, because I think this is an important place to cover. And that is, you mentioned being in a crisis and the urgency that happens that's driven by a crisis. So speak to that. For a viewer that's watching this right now, explain why it's so important to avoid making decisions during a crisis.
Well, you're not making a good decision, number one. You're making it out of scarcity and fear. And if you know that, if you have a game plan and you know that you're going to be making a change, whether it be the end of this year or next year, while you have that time, do the research, find out what's available to you, make sure your money's going to last. Because when it's a crisis situation, whether it be a heart attack, whether it be a fall that is not going to allow you to go back home again, a lot of times you don't get to make those choices.
Mm-hmm.
And probably one of the most important things is to communicate with those people around you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not your kids, it's your best friend. In the event that this happens to me, this is what I'd like. This is how I'd like to live. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to happen to my dog. Because I like to say it this way. I mean, I have a realtor that I work with that this happened to. In the event that you have a stroke and you cannot communicate, your kids are going to knock themselves out to do what they thought you wanted. And if it's the wrong thing, you're going to feel bad that you weren't able to tell them, and they're going to feel horrible that they did the wrong thing. So have the conversation now and set that information aside. And depending upon what you do and how internet savvy you are, make sure that people know what your passwords are, so that they can handle things for you in the event that you can't.
And that they have a little bit of money too that they can use to help do that too. That's something else that they're going to need.
And the paperwork's updated.
That, yeah.
I mean, if your HIPAA is not updated and your daughter-in-law is really the closest one and she needs to know what the doctor's saying and they're not going to tell her because she's not on there, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. So you've got to make sure that you have your power of attorneys, you know, that you've consulted with an attorney and that you've gotten those things done. It's very easy.
Yeah.
Very
Nobody wants to talk about those things. Oh, I'll do that later. Oh my gosh, my health is fine. But I will tell you, even to the extent of pre-planning, John and I did last year, we talk about having everything in order. And I can tell you that it being a executress for one of my clients, had everything planned out. I didn't know her as well as she thought I did. She had an estranged family, and I was all of a sudden in charge of all her affairs. Had I not known that she had everything planned out, it would have been really hard.
Mm-hmm.
In another situation, I have friends that their parents said, let them figure it out. Let them fight it out when we're gone.
I hear that all the time.
Give your children, this sounds awkward, but give your children the benefit to grieve without being angry at you because you made decisions on things that they have no control over.
Yeah.
So my husband and I sat down with somebody and we've spent an hour and a half and we both planned out our funerals. Everything is in order so that when something happens to us, we have one son. He is not going to have to worry about any of those things. It's all right there. This is what they want to do.
And that's a huge relief. I just helped my husband's family plan everything the other day, day before yesterday. And it's a tremendous amount of decisions that need to be made. And there's a lot of driving around and meeting people and having them sell you or upsell you things. And so the more you can plan out ahead of time, the better, because usually children, they're going to sign up for everything that's being suggested because they want to do such a good job. And really, if you have a little time to do some due diligence, you can get some things figured out that can make things go so much smoother.
Right.
And let's talk about procrastination a little bit further, because another thing that probably you and I hear all the time is that guilt that someone hasn't gone through their attic or gone through their basement or gone through the spare bedroom, and they haven't gone through their stuff in anticipation of maybe having to move someday, or should they pass away, leaving less undone, less of a mess maybe for people to deal with afterwards. And there's so much guilt. What would you tell us about that, about the guilt?
We're all human. I mean, myself, I probably have things that I probably should toss that I haven't tossed, but you can't take it on. You can't move out of home in 48 hours. So you do what you need to do. That's a tough question, Katherine. I mean, you do what you need to do, and there comes a time where you got to just let it go.
Yeah.
For those people that have a basement full of things, know that work with somebody that has a solution, so that when the time comes, whether you're moving somewhere or you pass, somebody that's got a solution that's going to help your family remedy that. That's the best thing I can say.
That can be just part of your plan that you have written
Yeah.
out, is use this downsizing company or hire a downsizing company or a senior move manager to do this, and that you leave explicit instructions that we don't mean for you to go through all this stuff.
Exactly. I mean, I share this. Sometimes people don't have enough for an estate sale. They just don't have enough. And I've done enough of them. Just about everything I do has an estate sale attached to it. I've done enough of them that I can walk through and kind of get an idea of yes, no. But I do have another solution. So if we don't have enough and you're going to make a move, rather than, unless you want to donate it to your favorite charity, I have a buyout guy. Let the buyout guy come in here, and he's going to buy those things he knows he can resell. But here's the benefit. He's going to haul off the rest. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a little extra cash for those things that you didn't think anybody wanted. Mm-hmm. Have a solution.
Yeah, and people are oftentimes surprised that something is worth what it is. And so that's a whole other topic, is about, how do you get rid of the extra stuff? But I think Ingrid and I agree that don't feel bad. Don't feel like I should be doing that. I should be going to clean that out, because by the time this is really weighing on you, it's just not the best use of your
it's robbing
time
you.
And mental energy. And if you haven't done it by now, maybe just let it go. If you can go through photos or go through paperwork, that's something really helpful. That's a harder thing for other people to go through. Mm-hmm. If you can figure out what you should keep and maybe what not to keep. Right. We have a person that actually helps people go through the paperwork, and she can help them organize that into beautiful binders and just gets everything all taken care of. It's amazing. But going through the paperwork and maybe going through photos, that's great. But, just do what you can do, and everything else, if you get to it, fine. But one of the reasons people are often struggling is they don't know what to get rid of, because they don't know where they might be going.
Yes.
What does knowing that do for you, Ingrid, if you know where you're going to go?
Well, we have first of all, it's very comforting if you know where you're going to go. But if you know that you've got a team that's working with you, we use a stickering idea. So, we try to make it something fun. I'm moving into a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm going from a house that's 2,000 square feet to 600 square feet. I know there's certain things in this house that are just not negotiable. They're going to go with me. So we have we call them downsizing dots. And we have them go through a fun exercise to sticker things. The great things that got the green dot on it, say that that's going with you. The things that have the red dot on it, you're saying, I don't care about those. They're staying here. I'm going to sell them. And I've got a couple of other colors for my kids, but it's fun. And the whole purpose of that is, it's too much for us to think about in our minds. Take, leave. So putting that dot on something, whether you're going to move next year or next month, it's an activity that says, I've dealt with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. I love that. And also, once you know where you're going to move, it makes it a little bit easier to know what you can get rid of. It's
yes.
like, we can take that bedroom set. We can't take that dining table. We need to take that one instead. So sometimes the reason why you're standing in confusion is because you don't have the missing puzzle piece.
So you want somebody that's familiar with, like I mentioned earlier, the floor plans. Because if you're going through the sticker exercise, the downsizing dots, when your mover comes, you can say everything has got a green dot on it, you're packing that.
Mhm.
And when the estate liquidator comes to do a walkthrough, everything's got a red dot on it. You know, to a certain extent, obviously, there's some things she may say, this cabinet, everything behind these doors is going to be in the sale. But it makes it easier for them to discern. And when there is an estate sale involved, when is it going to happen? Are you going to move first and then we're going to do it? Or do you need to stay here because you really need all the money you get from your house to make that move?
Mhm.
So it's having an agent that knows how to negotiate the contract in the right way that's going to benefit you.
Mhm.
If you're moving first, wow, the benefit there is you can take things and bring them back or more things while you're trying to decide what's going to fit.
Mhm. Because
And
usually there is that shuffling back and forth.
yeah. And because you don't want to take too much, and that's what people have trouble with. Oh, I'm going to take all these things. I can't get rid of any of these. And then you move to a smaller space and you feel like this.
Yeah.
And now you got to hire somebody to come and help you get that stuff out of there that you didn't think it through.
Mhm.
So it's working with somebody that does that can help you go through that. And sometimes it's not your children.
Yeah, sometimes, well, we work with a lot of people that don't have any children or have anyone
Yeah.
to help. And some
Yeah.
of the children live far away and they would like to come help, and some of them do. And then if we can help people through that process, though, when the adult children do come, they can spend their time more on the photos or going out
Yes.
to lunch and doing things that aren't quite as strenuous and could be a better visit.
Right.
So.
I agree.
Well, Ingrid, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And I know this will be beneficial for people. And let's do it again, especially as you get that new book written. And
Okay.
and
Okay.
anyway, thank you so much, Ingrid. And thank you for
Thank you. My
watching.
pleasure. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great. All
And
right.
thank you for watching Empowering Seniors Daily Dose. I'm Katherine Ambrose. Let us know if we can answer any questions for you. Reach out to Ingrid or myself. We would be happy to try to help you with whatever we can, no matter where you live. All right.
Great.